Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to Two Guys on a Porch. This episode, the match of the heavyweight bourbons.
Find out why Bradford looks like he just got out of the shower. Welcome to Two Guys on a Porch. I'm Jason. This is Bradford, of course, as always, with my hunting dog, Kimber. Here we are again on a field trip at the Standard Club. No, Bradford just didn't get out of the shower, but it would take some convincing to do otherwise. We are two guys on a porch. Normally, of course, we're on a porch, but today we're on the stage at the Standard Club, a historic venue, historic house in downtown Nashville. Josh Smith has been, again, kind enough to allow us to have our podcast here while it's cold outside, but it still doesn't explain why Bradford is in his shower robe.
This is a boxing robe. I'm stepping into the ring at 6 feet, 225 pounds. I'm a heavyweight. I'm kind of a heavyweight, but I'm ready to rumble.
Are you suggesting somebody might mistake you for a heavyweight boxer?
I thought that would be a fun topic today to talk about while we match these heavyweight bourbons, and we truly have heavyweight bourbons today.
Indeed. This is, I enjoy doing this podcast every single time, but I'm truly excited about the bourbons that we are tasting today. So if you were ever going to watch a whole episode from beginning to end, this is it. I even go so far to say, search the internet. I don't know that anybody has done a tasting of these three powerhouses. These are the legends of bourbon right here.
Absolutely. And usually we save the best for last. And if we've done that, we're not drinking Pappy 23 last. It's going to be the first thing we taste.
Yeah, it says something. We're starting with the one that's the less, if you will, and it's 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle.
Right.
This is not 23-year-old something else. We didn't play a switch on you. 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle, the end-all, be-all bourbon. But when it comes to unicorns, it's not the only unicorn out there.
We've got Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, the 2024 release, and the legendary King of Kentucky. Perhaps one of the most difficult to find bourbons because you have to go to Kentucky to get it almost exclusively.
And I'll go so far as to say most people have never heard of King of Kentucky. I mean, if you're new to bourbon, don't feel bad not knowing what in the world that is.
Yeah.
It's the only Brown-Forman label bourbon. Now, Brown-Forman has lots of great bourbons. This is the only one that they have Brown-Forman on the bottle.
Yeah, in fact, Old Forester is one of their labels. These two are aged in the same rickhouse. They have a different mash bill, but those are the three heavyweights that we have together today.
23-year-old Pappy, Old Forester Birthday, and King of Kentucky. Yeah, that's a heavyweight matchup if there ever was one.
And what we're smoking today, right in line with that, because these are the legendary Fuente Padron Legend. These are also a 2024 release. These are a collaboration between Arturo Fuente and Padron. The patriarchs of those companies got together in 2020 and agreed to make cigars to honor each other. They have done so. We tried on a previous episode the Padron cigar to honor Fuente. These are the Fuente to honor Padron, and they are $200 a stick. These are legendary cigars.
We have smoked the 206 before. This I really like. This is...
Wait, you like Fuente better than Padron?
I know, it's heresy, isn't it?
Not from my standpoint, but I agree. This... I don't know why it's different, but it's different.
Yeah, it's maybe it's the excitement of the bourbon we're about to drink, but I normally 1926 Padron is my favorite. But wow, this is good.
Well, since we're about ready to fight and comparing these bourbons, I'm gonna take the robe and towel off.
Oh,
We're ready.
Don't say that. Oh, you're getting ready to fight, get into the boxing match. The Standard Club here, they've actually hosted boxing matches here on this not the stage, but the boxing ring was in this spot. And so it's kind of different for a club. They would have private boxing events. So again, we're at the Standard Club at the Smith House, legendary place here in Nashville, Tennessee. Originally was a Jewish men's club back in the day. It got bigger and became the old Natchez Club. This is the ballroom that the Jewish men's club built to host their parties. Now it's here with the Smith House, the Standard Club at the Smith House, and it's a great place, downtown Nashville. It is open for public dinners, but I would encourage you to look into the membership because it's a great club to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go ahead and get the Pappy out of the way.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, no.
Get the Pappy 23 out of the way. Let's taste it.
So we've tasted this before.
It's almost the defending champion, if you will.
It is. It is indeed. So if you remember in a previous episode, our Pappy New Year episode, go back and check out that podcast. We tasted the 15, 20, and 23. My conclusion at the end of that was it changed my mind. I previously thought the 15 was just as good as the 23, but in that episode, I actually liked the 23 better than the 20 and 23. You weren't so convinced, though.
No. I think the 23 is so different, so unique. It is by far the best whiskey I've tasted, almost without exception, and it's certainly better than the 15 and the 20. I think the 12 that we tasted later may be better than the 15. That's a whole different discussion. But even on the nose, as I described the taste before, it's like warm butter. That's what I smell. I put this to my nose, and it was like, oh, my gosh, that is... And I feel like I'm in the kitchen, and I've heated up butter, and it's just that perfect note. Maybe some baking spices in the warm butter, and that's the way it drinks. It's amazing.
I like that. That's warm butter is a good description. It's but I would add to it. It's too spicy for that. And people have said this before. I'll say it again. Pappy puts a cinnamon in there that is unique to them. I think if you were to do a blind taste test, you could identify Pappy, be it whatever year iteration, by that subtle cinnamon in there. It's the spice that doesn't burn. It's a little spiced apples, spice butter, I guess, as you would call it.
Yeah, I think that's, you said that spiced apple. That makes sense, too. And drinking this, it's just exceptional.
Our last episode, we drank Macallan Scotch. It had a very clean finish to it. This, it again, has the characteristics of a full body taste. It stays with you. It's not that clean finish, though. It's that spiced cinnamon, to me, apple. Not as much of a vanilla as a typical bourbon, but man, it's good. You could. I'm not sure I would put Coca-Cola in this as Pappy used to drink it, supposedly. I think this is good by itself and almost heresy nowadays, but that's the legend. But yeah, I could go on sipping this forever.
Yeah, 100%. Let's circle back to these cigars. And this really is exceptional relative to the first time we smoked these. And this is a different cigar. This is the Fuente version of that legend. It is an exceptional cigar. And much like in the making of any premium thing you're going to consume, be it wine or scotch or bourbon in this case, the blend of all of the things that make that up really is what defines it. And it's so hard to get all of those things right. And so with a cigar, you have three elements. You've got the filler, the wrapper, and the binder and the wrapper being last. And so the outer layer, that wrapper, which we've talked about, not sure how much of an impact that's going to have on what it tastes like. But remember, that is what you're putting in your mouth, and it impacts the flavor anywhere from 30 to 60%.
I believe that because before you take a puff of it, the wrapper's sweet. There's a sweet taste to it. When we tasted my father, and that finish in that cigar, I tasted a little sweet. Here, that sweet is up front. And then and the flavor of the cigar is a very medium, smooth finish.
Yeah, and so getting the balance between the filler, which is the meat of that cigar, and the binder, which is what holds that together before you wrap it, and then finally that wrapper, to have all of those meld together, to have a balanced taste on that cigar is really difficult to achieve. And so when you wonder, why is this cigar worth more than the other? And the quality of the tobacco leaves, obviously, but then the balance of putting those together is what makes a premium cigar so different than a regular cigar.
And somewhere in there is the craftsmanship of the person rolling it. Is that not correct?
Oh, yeah, because if you roll it too tight, you're going to be cutting half the cigar off to get a draw.
Right. Doesn't burn evenly.
Yeah.
Or goes out on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, they are going to have their more experienced rollers, because these are hand-rolled cigars.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to have their more experienced rollers making these cigars, certainly. And so when you get into these heavyweight bourbons, it's similar. It's the water. Oh, it's the oak. It's, from the barrel. It's all of those things, and which matters most. And I think it boils down to they all matter in varying degrees, particularly when you're creating these types of bourbon, these super premium bourbons, that it matters a great deal. And so we talk about, bourbon has to be aged in new white oak barrels. There are 12 varieties of white oak. So maybe more than that. So there are a number of different species. And then when did you harvest those trees? Yeah. Were they 10-year-old? Were they 50-year-old? And the barrels made from those makes a difference. The charring we talked about before, that makes a difference. Where in the rickhouse are they? Makes a difference.
What was the weather during that time period that they were aging? How much temperature change there was during that time period? And
the water they used. We talked about with Scotch on a previous episode with the sea salt infused in there. Jack Daniel's proud of their limestone water in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Bourbon being the same thing. And I do think that makes a difference when compared to some of the Texas or Colorado. And Colorado has, wonderful water with the mountains coming off the Rockies. But yeah, I think the water makes a difference.
So if the bourbons were heavyweight boxers, who would the 23-year-old Pappy be?
You'd almost have to go with Muhammad Ali.
I had the exact same question, the same answer. That's exactly how I meant.
The greatest.
Yeah, the greatest. Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It's the sting, if you will, would be the cinnamon taste in the Pappy. It's Muhammad Ali is 23-year-old Pappy.
Yeah, and that's not to say that he didn't lose a bout.
No.
He could be beat, but time and time again, he proved himself to be the greatest boxer that ever stepped into a ring, regardless of weight class.
Yeah, so we're right on line with that. That's exactly who I have in mind.
And yeah, so let's taste the first contender.
The first contender is Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. Now, this is legendary as well. It's made, each iteration, they have the same label on the bottle, but they make a new iteration each year. So this is, I believe, the 2024.
It is.
Yeah, so, yes, it was barreled in 2012, bottled in 2024. So it's the 2024 edition. So if you pick up the 2023 or 22, etc., it might taste a little bit different. Now it's the same distiller, same mash bill, same recipe, but the nuances are different because of the reasons you just iterated. That the weather's different, the position of that barrel in the rick house, and so it's all different. But birthday bourbon is hard to come by. Yes. Again, it's one of those unicorns that you just don't pick up at the liquor store, or if you happen to find it at the liquor store, you pick it up then and there, and you tell your wife you bought it for a lot less than what you did.
Yeah, and to compare, so this is the highest proof release of the Old Forester Birthday that they've ever done. This is 107 proof. Compared to the Pappy we just had, which is 96.5, we're going to finish with the King of Kentucky, which is 104 proof. 104 proof. Compared to the Pappy we just had, which is 96.5, we're going to finish with the King of Kentucky, which is 104 proof. 104 proof. Compared to the Pappy we just had, which is 96.5, we're going to finish with the King of Kentucky, which is almost 126.
So we're going up.
Going up
Way
through the process. And I just tasted this, and it's good. However, it drinks a little hot. I think you taste the higher proof, which is not ideal when you get to that level. I want to taste more of the whiskey and the flavor notes, and it's a little more alcohol forward than I would care for. And so if I'm comparing, I would say the Pappy has decisively taken it down. So Ali still stands as the greatest against the birthday bourbon.
So this is my first time, literally the first time I've had it. Most of these things I've tasted before. First time tasting it. Its nose is
Beautiful nose.
Yeah, beautiful nose, burnt orange, great nose. Not light in pigment, but not exactly dark. We just saw it was aged 12 years. But wow, it's pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, I do pick up some fruit on the flavor, kind of that orange right off the bat. But
you know, I think if this was a boxing match, birthday bourbon would go 8 rounds and be knocked out in the 9th, compared to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
So maybe we call this one Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, because I went to the Mike Tyson Lennox Lewis match.
Down in Memphis.
Yeah, exactly. So Lennox Lewis knocked Tyson out in the 9th round. And so that's why it comes to my mind. This is Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, you know, there was a lot of fights where it didn't last 1 round. Like it was like 10 seconds and the dude was out. I mean, you know, so this comes out really, really good, really, really strong. The finish is not as good as the 23-year-old.
So that brings up a question, because if I've been a boxing aficionado since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in the glory days of heavyweight boxing. You had Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and Joe Frazier. Those were 3 champions of the 70s. The end of that decade saw Larry Holmes take over. And what's noted about at least 3 of those 4, man, they had a chin. Yeah. They could take a beating. They could get knocked down. And Holmes in particular, you think he's beaten, and they rise to their feet, recover, and go on to win the match. So and Tyson, as great as he was, when he got knocked out by James Douglas, he never had the chin to really come back and do that. What makes that difference? I'm asking you from a physician standpoint.
You know, physiologically, I can't tell you why. I mean, that's the problem, though, with boxing as a sport. It's the last remaining gladiator sport, if you will. I call it, that's my terminology, because it's the only sport in which to win, you've actually got to injure your opponent. You know, in football, there's injuries. Every sport, there's injury. In cheerleading, there's injuries. But boxing is the only sport in which you have to injure your opponent. Not have to, but the most decisive way to win is to injure your opponent, meaning that you knock them out. By definition, loss of consciousness is a head injury. It's it's definitively that is a concussion. Of all concussions, only about 10% of concussions, they are knocked out. So 90% somebody has a concussion, they're not knocked out. But if a football player, whoever, is knocked out, you don't have to worry about asking them questions, examining them, whatever. They're knocked out. That's a concussion. No doubt, no ifs, ands, or buts. So with boxing, the problem is it's kind of that ethical question of, it's supposed to be a sporting event, not a gladiator event. We're not trying to kill the other person, but you actually have to injure your opponent.
So would you outlaw the sport?
I think that's strong. I mean, it's a valid question, but I think, boxing has merits. It's being tough. I mean, maybe you go more to a point. I mean, they have points in boxing already. Maybe you go to more of a point scale, but to knock somebody out, you really don't want to see somebody injured. I mean, of course, our best example is Muhammad Ali, our 23-year-old Pappy. Muhammad Ali ultimately had pugilista dementia, Latin words for, dementia from boxers.
Joe Louis, another great example of that.
Right, and so it was long before the CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's long been noted that boxers, after long careers, would get this unique dementia, and they just
Punch drunk, as they called it.
yeah, and so it wouldn't go away though, and so they didn't have MRIs or they didn't do the necrotopsies of the brain, thin brain slices to see the damage to the brain, but they would observe these differences. And poor Muhammad Ali, I mean, it was a kind of a Parkinsonian, like Parkinson's disease, Parkinsonian state. But he was just horrible. And so repeated injuries to the head, be it in a boxing match where you get knocked out, but it's not like they stepped in the ring for the first time during the match. These guys are sparring all the time. And so, you know, the idea of why did Tyson have a soft chin? Some people might argue, well, he just didn't get hard enough. You got to push him, make him harder. Well, that's how you get hurt as well. That could shorten your career if you spar too much and get hit in the head. Most sparring guys have the headgear on.
So let me ask this. So let's compare King of Kentucky before we taste it to George Foreman. I mean, it's going to pack a punch, right?
Yeah.
So this is a guy, one of the highest knockout ratios in the history of the sport, maybe the highest knockout ratio of any heavyweight champion. I mean, he could knock people out with a jab, and I mean, 2-5-10, you're out. Whereas an Ali and a Larry Holmes could score the point, say jab, jab, jab. They knew how to box. That was their signature, if you will.
Danced like a butterfly. Yeah.
Which causes more damage? If you're a boxer, would you rather be knocked out in one punch by George Foreman, or be hit around the ring for 10 rounds by Muhammad Ali?
You know, if you're the food, I don't know if you care whether you're killed instantly or played with before you die. Do you want the lion to toy with you and play with you before it actually kills you? I don't know if that's a great option there. I mean, so I guess if I want to die, I might as well die quickly. But that's not really much of a choice there.
Yeah, that's. I've always wondered that though. I wanted to be a boxer. I wanted to be, because these guys were heroes. Rocky is my favorite movie of all time. Love that movie. Love the story and the boxing. So that came out in '76. So I remember having a cigar in New York. This was, 25 years ago. And it was a crowded cigar lounge in New York City. And I was with a coworker, and it was crowded, and we were kind of huddled up together around a small table, and this guy came in, and I was talking to him because we were forced to. We were sitting closer than you and I are now, and struck up a conversation, and I thought, well, he looks pretty young, but it's middle of the day. He's not wearing business attire. I wonder what his story is. And so somehow we got to talking.
You strike up a conversation with anybody, don't you? You're just a friendly guy.
But he was a very affable guy, and he talked about the fact that cigar smokers were so nice.
Yeah.
And he said, you can't trust cigarette smokers.
They're nervous little people, aren't they?
He said cigar smokers they're just nice people. And he said it's also the great equalizer. And he said, you can sit there, rich, poor, black, white. This was a black guy. And it struck me how true that was, that if you're having a cigar, it really does just put you on equal footing because you found something in common. And our whole point of being on the porch is to kind of build that depth of friendship. We didn't become friends, but we had a very pleasant conversation. It was interesting. Ronaldo Snipes.
Oh, you're talking about this guy, not me.
Yeah, Ronaldo Snipes was his name. He fought Larry Holmes for the title, knocked him down.
Oh, wow.
And ultimately ended up losing the fight because Holmes' chin is legendary. But that was a really cool kind of firsthand experience with that. It was a really cool thing. And he runs in the New York circles going to cigar bars. They kind of call him in to smoke cigars with people and talk.
Oh, that'd be a cool gig.
Yeah, we got to do that for free. So,
yeah, that's very cool.
So let's move on to perhaps the George Foreman, if you will, of the King of Kentucky.
Yeah, so I'm a George Foreman fan. I didn't know I was. I thought I just liked his grill.
He's my favorite.
But man, this is, wow. It's one might think at first calling your bourbon the king of Kentucky, Kentucky being the legendary state of bourbon, and you're going to be the self-proclaimed king. That's pretty ballsy, right? But wow, this is good.
They did put their name on it.
They put their name on it, but this is good stuff.
Yeah, on the nose, the first thing I pick up is caramel and vanilla.
Yeah.
It's a rich color. It's beautiful color.
It's certainly not a fruity nose. It's not that at all.
Yeah, and it's coffee, dark chocolate.
With a little bit of pepper in there.
Yeah.
It's not the cinnamon of Pappy, but it's a little bit of spice.
I would put this, this is 126 proof roughly. It's in the same category as that Willet Purple Top, the Coy Hill.
Yeah.
I would say it's too different from Pappy to compare, but your comparison of George Foreman, and you love that, 100%.
Yeah.
So to be given a good example, Joe Frazier, legendary fighter, former heavyweight champion. Well, he and Ali had these classic trilogy and fought to the distance each time. Well, Frazier couldn't hold Foreman's jockstrap. He just he had his clock cleaned every time he stepped into a ring.
Yeah.
Foreman would destroy Ken Norton. Ken Norton could fight Ali to the distance. Styles mattered. They matter in boxing. People match up differently with each other. And so when we're talking about King of Kentucky compared to Pappy, they're different things. Their styles are different.
And is that, you step back from it, if you're new to bourbon, you would think, hey, you put some corn, a little bit of wheat in there, maybe some rye, you put it in a barrel for a few years. It's all the same thing, right? But wow, it's amazing how different they are.
Well, that balance that we talked about, to achieve what they have, which with each of these expressions, we know Pappy, produced by Buffalo Trace, is a wheat forward. That's their mash bill. So it's going to be smoother and rounder and more kind of a bread flavor for that wheat bread kind of a thing. The mash bill on the Old Forester, and to note, Old Forester is a Brown-Forman product. So you've got two Brown-Forman expressions here. The Old Forester has the same mash bill as Woodford Reserve. It's a little higher rye, 18% rye, and 72% corn, and then the remainder, 10%, would be barley. And I do think it drinks a little bit like that. The King of Kentucky is 79% corn, 11% rye, 10% barley. So I think even though it's higher proof, it's able to infuse a little more sweetness.
So no wheat in the King?
No wheat at all.
Wow. So that explains that spice to it.
Yes,
that rye
that's right.
taste.
Yeah, it doesn't soften or smooth it out.
Yeah.
As a result, you're right.
So you're not a rye guy, but you like the King here?
Well, it's, most bourbons have some expression of rye unless you've substituted that with wheat. And I don't mind it. I think it's when you get, when it hits 15% rye, that's considered a high rye. So anything below that, it infuses some flavor, but it doesn't define its signature. Yeah. So the Old Forester would technically be a higher rye product at 18%. Yeah. This at 11, compared to that higher corn content, is just to give it a little more gravitas and spice and flavor.
So between the three, you have to drink only one for the rest of your life. Which one are you picking?
I would probably, God, that's really hard, because I'm sitting here sipping on that King of Kentucky. I think the Pappy is the champion.
So I come in it backwards. I've taken multiple choice tests all my life. You eliminate the lowest contender. Yeah. I use the word contender first since we're talking boxing. The first one I eliminate is the Birthday.
Agreed.
Birthday is good. Not putting it down. If that's who you have to marry, you've done well. The top spot goes between the 23 and the King. I don't know. I think I think I kind of like that George Foreman. I like that King of Kentucky. It has, maybe I'm a little bit more of a rye guy than I realized, but I like that rye taste in there. There's a little bit of spice in there.
I wonder, if Foreman had fought Ali again, Ali took the title from Foreman, which was a huge upset at the time. Ali was in his mid-30s and a heavy underdog, and Foreman just, cement bombs trying to knock him out, wore himself out, and Ali eventually knocked him out later. If they had fought again, would it have been a different outcome? And we don't know.
Yeah.
They're different style fighters, and so it's really hard for me to decide. I would probably say the Pappy 23 would be my preference, and the George Foreman, King of Kentucky, we've put his name on something else now. I hope he didn't come to us for royalties. He'd probably love
mufflers, stove, cooktop grills,
George Foreman bourbon.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll do King of Kentucky will do a private level bottling for George Foreman there.
Yeah, I don't think you could go wrong either way. I don't think you could say, oh, you're wrong, King of Kentucky is better or Pappy is better. I think it's a little matter of taste, and my taste tends toward that Pappy. I go back to that warm butter, smoothness, the lower proof. I think just gives it a smoother, rounder mouthfeel. It's amazing.
I'll give you that. Yeah, it's more of a full mouth, full bodied, viscous taste that stays with you. And so from that standpoint, it dances with you, to use Muhammad Ali terminology. It dances in your mouth for a longer period of time, and it's good.
So if we compare this cigar, which is exceptional, to the 50th anniversary Padron we had, a $50 cigar, and we said at the time, best cigar we've ever had.
Yeah.
How would you compare this to that?
To be honest with you, I think it's the wrapper. The wrapper, every time I put my mouth on it, it's sweet.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's, maybe we get crazy and we start smoking 2 cigars at a time.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, we'll start. We've done crazier things, so maybe we can start comparing cigars. It's hard to go back and forth between cigars. One typically doesn't do that, but the wrapper on this is really good. Of this, the smoke is good. It's a medium, smooth cigar. But the wrapper is it's sweet, and from that standpoint, it matches well with bourbon. If you're going to drink some bourbon, this definitely adds to the spiced butter of 23-year-old.
So, as all arguments in boxing, you can never be right because it's hard to prove anything.
Right.
But it's hard to argue that Muhammad Ali is the greatest. It's going to be hard to argue with the fact that Pappy 23 is the greatest.
Well, I guess if we were going to use apt monikers, King of Kentucky is the self-proclaimed king. Muhammad Ali was self-proclaimed as well, so maybe we should have named King of Kentucky Muhammad Ali. But
so you would go King of Kentucky over the Pappy?
Yeah, I think it wins by points, not by the decision, not by knockout.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of taste, right? It's just a matter of what you're a fan of and what you want to taste. So I think the heavyweight bout between these three has been really exciting. The heavyweight cigar we've had and the topic of the heavyweights has been great. We hope you've enjoyed that as we have enjoyed our time on Two Guys on a Porch. Hope you join us next time.
Go to twoguysonporch.com. Be sure to like and subscribe. Comment. If you can get a hold of these bottles, drink it yourself. Give us comments. Let us know what you think. This is a community. We are certainly not the experts. We just drink bourbon and smoke cigars, have a good time. Please let us know what you think. Come back and see us, Two Guys on a Porch. Thank you for coming in and visiting with us.
Life is much better with friends, a drink and cigar, and some Two Guys on a Porch swag.
Let us know what your drink and cigar of choice is at twoguysonAporch.com, and you'll be entered into a drawing to get some Two Guys on a Porch swag